said that the biggest casualty of war are usually women and children, and that affects the future of our nation, of the world at large. So while we can talk about the funding and the fight itself, the real people affected are also very important. And this morning, we want to talk about protecting children, women, ensuring that the children do not become soldiers recruited in this fight and become terrorists, bandits, and what have you. And we have joining us on the program this morning Major General Adekunle Ariyibi, who's the Chief of Defense Standards and Evaluation, DHQ. He joins us live from our Abuja studio. You're welcome to the Morning Brief, General.
Thank you very much, Chayo.
We had this conversation just before you joined us about funding or what have you. And yes, it's a very important part of the conversation, but equally important is a casualty. But what do you make of all of this back and forth? You have been in the theater, you still are, you understand these things. So when people say Boko Haram, ISWAP is being funded by a foreign agency, I know the CDS has spoken about that, but does this really lend credence to what the CDS has been saying all this while? And is there some sort of investigation ongoing beyond Nigeria as well in that sense?
Thank you very much. The CDS has indeed spoken quite a lot about the issue of foreign funding. There's no doubt about it that this sort of operation cannot be sustainable for the past 15 years without some sort of external collaboration and assistance. It's obvious that the operations of Boko Haram, Islamic State in West African province has metamorphosized since their allegiance with the ISIS, and they have had access to international funding which is beyond the shores of Nigeria. It's obvious in the caliber of weapons you see them display. It's obvious in the sort of sustainability plans that they have. And right now, they are moving into drones, and not only surveillance drones, but also drones that can deliver leather weaponry. So it's obvious, and just as the CDS has said, there's no doubt and no ambiguity about that fact, that there are external collaborators and sponsors, and we've seen it. You'll recall that in 2021, the government of Dubai, of the UAE, a federal appeal court sentenced 4 Nigerians to various times of sentencing, ranging from life imprisonment to 10 years jail term. And also the U.S. Department of Treasury, and particularly their Foreign Assets Control Office, froze assets of these same 4 people. And in 2024, you saw Nigerian government identified and sanctioned 19 Nigerians regarding to terrorism funding. So there's no doubt about it that this is the lifeline of which is sustaining these operations beyond the local collections that they make on taxing and all of that.
It's quite disturbing. So I know that I had watched the CDS on an international media making that assertion. It was very, very clear, although he didn't, let me put it differently. He said it with a lot of confidence, but he wasn't mentioning names. He just put it out there for anybody to make of it what it is. But why is it difficult to possibly maybe indict or call out some of these people? If people are killing our people at the end of the day, that is the basic responsibility of government, championed by the military, to ensure that we're protected. So why is it hard for the layperson who says, we don't want to be hearing all this, they sponsor that, foreign people do this? Who are these people? When the Nigerians ask those questions, how should the military respond?
The questions that you, about Jeffrey, the questions that you asked are very germane, and I will continue to toe the line of what the Chief of Defense Staff has said. And this further buttresses the fact that fighting this existential threat to our nation, it's not a military alone function. It is something that needs to go beyond only kinetic operations, that need to go into what was determined in the recently concluded Joint Operational Commanders Conference, which recently concluded in Abuja. It had very serious strategic level appointments such like the former service chiefs, the former chief of defense staff, and other theater commanders. And it was unanimous in the decision that the military alone cannot go it alone. It is a whole of society approach that would resolve the issue, because there are so many lines of operation that are not military, that are not driven by military, that needs to be by federal government agencies, by ministries, different departments and agencies that need to champion this cause. Right. It need not be the military that needs to be at the part of it. The military should be focusing on the kinetic part of the operation. Yes, we do some non-kinetic operations to win the hearts and minds, but it is the whole of government approach that would, because why? The military do not have that mandate to be the spokesperson for the country. The military does not have the legal backing to conclude on mentioning, shaming, naming or shaming. It has international collaborations which are beyond the military and which therefore needs to be the appropriate government organs that are handling and championing such initiatives.
So, General, let's talk about the work you're doing now, because sadly, in the middle of all of this fight, you have women who have been recruited. We've seen suicide bombers, girl suicide bombers, some of them kidnapped, raped, pregnant for these, terrorists, and then give birth right there in camp. And then we see children soldiers. So really, when people say they're the most impacted, women and children, these facts are out there. And your job is quite tricky. You have to fight the terrorists, but also protect the women and children, some of them who have, not because they want to, but they've been coerced to be a part of it. So it's always a very tricky thing. Some of them used as human shield. They're right in the middle of it. So how is that really going? Because I know that time and again, the UN organ, UNICEF, has presented, documents to Nigeria on how these things should be. But how tough is it? And how much headway is the military making in this fight against terrorism, but also to protect women and children?
Thank you very much for that question. And let me put some context into that again. You recall that the World Bank, for instance, mentioned that 2 billion persons out of the 8.2 billion population globally lives in countries or territories that has developmental issues impacted by fragilities, conflicts, and violence. And of these 2 billion people, almost 500 million are children and women, and they are impacted directly by these. Children are maimed, women are raped, sexually abused, and abducted and turned to child soldiering. And also, from 2015, when a global conflict escalated, about 120,000 children have been killed, which is at a rate of like 20 killed in a day. And about 300,000 infractions, grave violations of the rights of children and women have been reported. And indeed, as you said, UNICEF has come up to say that these figures that are mentioned are just fractions of the total, because these conflict areas are very restrictive and very difficult to access, and because of shame, fear, and pain, parents do not report, people do not report, and therefore the appropriate agencies cannot investigate and verify. So the magnitude of what we are facing is huge, and therefore there's a need for a concerted effort to ensure that this vulnerable percentage of our population are protected, because the children and women are the most impacted, and they face this on a daily basis. And for us in the military, as you asked, the military has been doing quite a lot in ensuring that the children and women are protected. And I'll give you some few instances. The Nigerian military from 2016 have been adopting a more proactive measure towards ensuring the safety of children and women. We have ensured that the Joint Intelligence Center in Maiduguri process children and women quickly and ensure that they are out of military detection and into the hands of civil authorities as quickly as possible. If you recall that the Nigerian government signed a protocol, a handover protocol with the UNICEF in 2025, which required that maximum of 7 days. But we have been able to achieve 2 to 3 days in ensuring that children goes into the hand of the appropriate authorities. So that at the Bulunkutu Rehabilitation Center, for instance, we have sent over 100,000 plus children and women, which comprise of 67,000 plus children and 36,000 plus women. And the women undergo some vocational training, while the UNICEF take care of a child care program for the children. So we need a lot to do to ensure that the children and the most vulnerable in our society are protected. And I need to add this very quickly because of time, that all hands must be on deck to ensure that these vulnerable in our society are protected, because the kinetic effort at winning the operation can only be limited. And I'll give you an instance. Kinetic effort can take out 1 million people, but another 2 million are available. And that makes work done to be minus 1 million. That means the people are available. And who are these people? These are the young and very vibrant members of our society that are available to propagate these words. And why? Because we have absentee parents that adopt their rights to their children, and you find instances in which some feel that the responsibility of the parents ends at the point of impregnating the man, end at the point of impregnating the woman. So it's beyond only military effort. There must be a whole of society effort at ensuring that parents who push their male child forward as suicide bombers, in the erroneous belief that male children are more precious than the female children.
General.
All part of it. Yes, Geoffrey.
Yeah, just land on your thoughts so we can throw in the next question.
Okay, so that is the reason why we need to have a whole of society effort and ensure that the extant regulations in the country, such like the protection, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which covers coercion. It has provisions to cover coercion, willfully putting people in harm's way, and also abandonment of spouse and children. So if parents are made to take responsibilities for their actions, and the number of people that are available to propagate these terrorist acts are reduced. I don't want to go into open borders and all of that because it's not part of the issues we are discussing. But if we reduce the number that are available and ensure that care is given to these children, and they would not be such that it is the person that gives them an AK-47 and 5,000 naira that will determine their fate in life.
All right, General, just as we begin to wind down, I just want to ask you, I know it's maybe a challenging one for you, but when you get out to this kinetic operation, the difficulty, if you will, or how do you manage the dilemma of facing a minor who is a terrorist?
Geoffrey, it's a tough one, as you have said, but with the trainings and the exposure that the military has been given, based on understanding of the international protocols that governs the issue of child soldiers, from the Geneva Conventions to the Hague or the Rome Statutes to the Convention on the Protection of the Rights of the Children, all laid out specific regulations that governs the engagement or the involvement of children in armed conflicts. And the military has gone a long way in entrenching the training of its staff to understand that you do not do reprisal against children. Most instances, they do not understand what they are doing fully. They are coerced into doing it, or they do it out of fear or intimidation. And as such, you must treat them humanely. You must not harm them, and you must not forcefully recruit them to participate in operations. So, and that's why I went back to the issue of the handover of the protocol between UNICEF and the federal government of Nigeria, which dictate that maximum 7 days, children that are involved in some form of hostility or are handed over to civil authority, and the military has been ensuring that, and in fact we have been having 2 to 3 days turnover rate of children that are involved in hostilities.
And we have to thank you for your work. If anything, it's been said that the respect of a lot of Nigerians has been renewed for the military under CDS, Musa. And of course, I'm sure you'll be enjoying a lot of that goodwill from Nigerians in terms of intelligence, support, and the rest. And we also are here to give you all of the support. We've been speaking with Major General Adekunle Ariyibi, Chief of Defense Standards and Evaluation, DHQ. Thank you for your time. And once again, we wish you the very best.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Charlie.
We'll take a quick break now, and when we return, the PFN's head has been re-elected. And on the show today, we'll be merging governance, love for a nation with religion, and what role you have to play in all of that. That's in a moment. Bishop Waleoke is right here with us in the studio, so stay with us.